Aloha, everybody. I want to welcome Lisa St. Croix. Welcome. Yay.
Hello.
So let's see. We've got Patrice, Nancy, Crohn's Intuition, and Kathy Kerr here. So I don't know. I think I forgot to tell you, Lisa, but to your right, there's a little section that says either private chat or comments. If you click on comments, you'll see the comments as they pop up. So.
Oh no.
You see them? Uh-oh, she accidentally hung herself up. Okay, I'm going to set up YouTube. Oop, turn that off. Hopefully she'll be right back. Oops. So, today we have Lisa St. Croix as soon as she gets back, and we're going to be talking about the boarderless edition. So, aloha, Joseph. Aloha, everyone coming in. And let's see. Here she is.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Technology. Get
it.
You're like, I'm not going to touch it. Okay. Any comments that I think you should see, I'll highlight and I'll pop up on our screen too. Okay.
Okay, great.
And I love that you have the deck right behind you in case anyone doesn't know what deck this is. The Tarot de St. Croix. So this is the boarderless edition. You were telling me that the reason that the bordered edition had orange around it is because they originally had gold, like the paintings behind you, and it photographed as orange.
Correct,
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so these panels behind are the original painting, and I did them the golden dimensions, which is 9 by 13 or something like that. And I put a little gold border around it. Originally, I thought I was just doing just art. I didn't know that I was going to make a deck out of it. And then as I got further into it, I realized I really wanted to make a deck. But I already had those borders on. And then when I photographed them, I scanned them. And
oh, excuse me. That was me.
It's hard to replicate gold. So it came out sort of orange. But then I just went along with it. I live in New Mexico, which is, I don't know if people know it. Every house here is adobe colored, which is sort of a orangey burnt sienna kind of color. And the dirt is that same color. So it's really part of this landscape. So I kind of felt like it worked well with that original deck, but I got a lot of flack about it. People didn't like it. It's surprising how many people don't like orange. Why? I don't know. So anyways, I decided our original deck was published 7 years ago in 2014. And when I was running out of decks, I thought, I'm going to try and do something different and breathe some new life into it. So I took the borders off.
Took the borders off. Well, I actually don't have the bordered edition because I found out about the borderless, and I love borderless. It's one of my favorite things is a borderless deck. So I waited, and now I have your deck, which I absolutely adore. Shall we go through a couple of the cards I pulled to the side?
Sure.
And just talk about them. So the first one I pulled out, just because it's very appropriate for our day and age right now, is the 7 of Wands. And it's for me, when I look at it, I see the Indians of the Amazon trying to protect their forest. So protect their way of life, which is totally a 7 of Wands vibe. So can you tell us more about where this image came from?
Yeah, you know, the way that I painted these cards was that I would just shard the deck, a Smith weight deck that I was using, and I would just pull a card out of it randomly, and then I would just sort of wait to see what messages came that had similar meaning. And so when I pulled the Seven of Wands, there was newspaper article about these Amazonian Indians that marched into Rio de Janeiro to protest a dam that was being built that was going to flood their homeland. And they were dressed like that, and they had these what looked like wands. And so I actually have that photograph somewhere. So I thought, wow, this is really bringing the meaning of Seven of Wands to life. You know, people really standing up for what they believe in, act of bravery, movement. I always look at, you know, the sevens corresponding to the chart. So there's this motion of move forward, and and then actually later on I heard that they actually won their land, so that had a happy ending.
Oh, good. Yeah. So I just pulled out some about 10 random cards that actually, when I first pulled them out, I think I had like 23. I'm like, okay, pare it down to 10, pare it down to 10. This one kind of struck home because it reminds me of my own son playing in the sand here, and the Four of Pentacles. It's just helpful to as a reminder that our material world is not permanent, it's temporary. And eventually that ocean wave is going to wash away our little castle that we're building, right? So I thought that was very appropriate for the Four of Pentacles.
Yeah. And then another thing, like I mentioned before, sorry?
I was just going to say, is this someone you know?
Yeah. So another thing that really I wanted to portray in that is that this child is making her realm. So 4 is relating to the Emperor, you know, 4 in the major arcana. She's building a sandcastle, and she's just really involved in what she's doing. She's not really, as you said, worrying about those waves coming in, and she's not inviting other people to come play with her. She's just very concentrated on her own space.
I love that. Another one that actually came up for me in a reading recently for one of my neighbors was this Nine of Cups. And she's been dealing with a lot of like, marriage issues.
That actually, that has a...
So it felt very appropriate for this card to come out as like, what is the gateway she needs to go through? And this was the card. So it seemed very appropriate. I'm like, yes, you need to find your happiness. You need to have the angels pour you a drink.
So that one I painted, actually, I had just moved into my home, and I just felt blessed. That was a wish that I really had, to have a home of my own. And, you know, the 9 cups being the wish card, I felt like it had been granted to me by the angelic realm pretty much, and filling my cup. So I actually appear in quite a few of the cards. I always had a problem with that because I didn't want to too many of myself, but when I was having these experiences that really related to the deck, I mean, to the card that I was painting, it was so hard to just take myself out of it, you know, especially when there was that personal connection like that card.
Right. So you heard it here first. That's Lisa enjoying a cup of ambrosia from the angels. Speaking of the adobe and New Mexico and everything, I actually been to New Mexico, so I know that color very well. But this was another image that popped out as me as like, so it's Coyote, right? From the Pueblo Indians, is that right?
Yeah, they actually, it's the sacred clown. It's called the Kashare. and they come out during, I actually lived in Zuni for a number of years on the Zuni Pueblo. And because we lived there, my ex-husband was a physician for the Indian Health Service. We were invited to their very sacred and private dances, and we would watch them. And halfway through the dances, which would go on for hours, sacred clowns would come out and entertain. They were sort of a halftime show. And one time they came up, they saw me up on the roof with my children, and they came up and tried to sell me this plastic turquoise necklace for $20, and it was like a 99-cent necklace. But I sort of played along and, you know, took my money out, and the crowd was all laughing at me. And I was sort of very embarrassed to be sort of in the center of it. It was just a moment of sort of sharing some kind of just a moment in time with these people, and really feeling like I was being part of their ceremony, even in a sort of lighthearted way. And I thought that's really what, later when I pulled the Fool, I thought, you know, that's really what the Fool is about. It's just sort of jumping off into something and being playful and spontaneous, and not sticking to any kind of old ideas, and taking a little bit of a risk. And I do have the coyote head on. It's actually a little, you wouldn't see that on a kashare, but the coyote is known as Dexter. And I like that combination of Dexter and the clown. And the kashare is making that shadow puppet of maybe the coyote going after some geese, and so I like the idea of sort of playing with the idea of fear, and seeing it as an illusion, and not letting it dominate you, which I think the Fool is very much sort of not worried about things. The Fool trusts the journey, just kind of goes ahead.
I love that you make fear into a shadow, which makes perfect sense, right? So this one is the Six of Wands, and it's not the typical image that you see for the Six of Wands, of the one person being very, you know, victorious over all and having the laurel wreath, whatever. And here we have, looks like Maiden Mother Crone passing the light on. Is that right?
Yes, yes. Actually, that's supposed to be Bridget, although later on I learned that Bridget wasn't really a mother, maiden, and crone. She's a triple goddess, but she was with sisters. Right. But anyway, the idea is sort of passing on inspiration. You know, I think of the sixes as sort of moving beyond yourself and beyond challenges. And I like the idea of Bridget lighting other people's candles, just inspiring people. So, yeah.
There's actually a few people, I don't know if anybody here in the chat has it, but I know there's a few people in the community that have been passing along the Bridget flame to each other. So it's one of the reasons why I wanted to touch base with them.
I have a Bridget candle, actually, that somebody passed on to me many, many years before I painted this. And when I painted it, I lit that candle, and I've used it in ceremonies to pass on to other people. So it was originally lit from the flame in Kildare, an island, which you may have visited on your trip. And so the idea is that each time you light that candle and somebody lights a candle from yours, it carries that charge, that same energy. And Bridget, being the goddess of inspiration and poetry and the arts, for me, is sort of a very personal and strong goddess.
Oh, Jamie just came in, and she also has a Bridget's flame. So that's one of the people I was thinking of. Welcome, Jamie, and anyone else who popped in. Oh, Neem. Hi, Neem and Ishi. A bunch of people popped in when I was enthralled. And Antoinette. And anyone else I may have missed. So the next one that I have pulled out is the Magician, just because I love the fact that he's got the whole deck, right? And I remember reading that you based this image off of Rumi. Is that correct?
Yes. So, I don't know if you, with your birth card, using numerology, you can figure out your birth card, you add your birthday, and then reduce it to something under 22. Well, I'm a 1910-1, so I'm a magician in the Wheel of Fortune. So actually,
Wow.
you can see all three of those combined in there. There's the sun, and Rumi stands on that wheel. But when I pulled the card, I was really wanting to, and it was right around, I think it's called the Sema, which is the anniversary of Rumi's death. It's in December, I think December 17th or something like that. And I was invited to go to a Sema in Santa Fe, where they read his poetry and they did the whirling dance. And I thought, he really was a magician. He was bringing something down from the divine and giving it out to the world in the form of his poetry, also the dance. And I thought, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to use him as this conduit for me, because I'm also a magician, of bringing down my cards and then out to the world. So even though it doesn't look like me, it was sort of my intention of passing on of the cards. And he's very playful. He's kind of a cute little magician. And I think that from what I've heard and read about Rumi, he was a gentle soul, and he wasn't a stern sort of alchemist type magician. I mean, he wasn't a magician; he was a Sufi. But that same energy of being able to transmute ideas and the divine and give it out into the world is there. And all the elements, in the magician card, you usually have the sword, the cup, the pentacle.
Right, you have it as the aces. Right?
You see those in the first cards.
So Ishi asks, is he dancing on the Wheel of Fortune? Yes, Ishi. He's dancing on the Wheel of Fortune and has the sun behind him. So 3 cards in 1, right?
Yeah.
The next one, just to dive a little deeper, we have the 10 of Swords. This is not the typical 10 of Swords. It's almost like those swords are either going to lift you up or push you into the water, right?
Yeah.
Is this you again?
Yes. Well, actually it is me, yes. It originally my brother at the bottom, but I decided to make it a reflection instead. And the idea behind that is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I love that.
I feel like there has to be some positive message, at least a positive lesson in the difficult cards. And I just to have all those swords in the back is such a difficult card. And I thought, well, I like the idea of using the reflected moon too, which is sort of a new beginning, because the 10 is sort of the end of the suit. So, and it does add up and become 1 later on. So I thought, putting that little sliver of a new moon, it's like, well, there's the heaviness of the swords piercing you and maybe drowning you, but it can also lift you up. It can be the lesson that you learn from your challenges.
Right. And sometimes it'll drown you and then lift you up. Here we go. 6 of Pentacles. That is an amazing image.
Yeah, that's the Yabyam. It's Tibetan tantric lovers. And, I talked about 6s being expansion before. And so that card is really just about giving and receiving. at the same time. There's just this flow of energy. As you give, you receive, and it sort of circulates.
Right. It's just a beautiful image. And the colors just are amazing. So, as Neem says, I love this card, and I love that card. I just love this deck.
Thank you.
And then, let's see, here we have the 8 of Cups, where normally you see someone walking away. Here you just see this amazing nature scene. This looks familiar too. Like I want to, like, there's like someplace in the world that exists just like this, and I can't quite place where it is.
This is Havasupai in the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
It's at the end of the Grand Canyon. It's a reservation, the Havasupai Indians, and you can hike down into it. It's a long hike, an 11-mile hike down the side of the canyon, and then there's this amazing place called Falls, and there are these pools, aqua pools. And then you see in the background there's a cottonwood. It's fall, and so each pool has these little golden leaves in it, and the leaves are moving from pool to pool. So the idea is really to soak into each pool of emotion, and then allow yourself to flow on to the next pool. So, you know, there is that movement. You talked about moving away, like usually you see a person. But all my 8s, I decided I wanted the 8s to be nature-based instead of having people in every single card. So my 4 8s have nature scenes. And instead of the person moving away, it's these little golden
the little gold leaves, which I thought were fish at first, truthfully. But I see that now.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever seen cottonwood leaves, but they're kind of shaped similar to a heart shape, and they turn this brilliant orange color in the fall. And they're quite sturdy leaves, you know, they're not delicate. They actually last, the dead leaves last about a year. So, you know, they have a lot of body in them. You know, they wouldn't just sink. They would kind of swirl around in that pool and then flow on. So that was the thought behind that card.
Neem also thought they were fish. Yes, Joseph, the guidebook goes into imagery quite detailed, actually. So
yeah, I mean, some of the minor arcana doesn't have a lot of information about it, but a little bit.
Right.
But the major arcana, some of the stories I've told, like the Fool, and the Magician, that's in there.
Right. So here's the major. Let me just talk about the Magician. So that's why I pulled it up. And here's a whole little story about where the image came from. And then the minors are not as detailed, right? We have the 7s, right, all together.
Yeah. And I like to break it down like that because, you know, I talked before about how it correlates with the major arcana. So I like that. That's the way that I teach and learned the tarot, is that if you know that correlation and that energy, so 7s would be, you know, focus and forward movement, and then and then, you know, the 4 suits relate to the body, spirit, swords, mind, cups, emotions, relationship, wand, spirit or energy, and pentacle, physical. So then it's very easy to learn it that way. And I thought, you know, just putting it in the book instead of going through all the pentacles and then all the cups, I thought it would sort of be just sort of
do it by number, which is amazing. Oh. Thank you, Neem, for putting Lisa's channel up.
Oh, great. Yeah, I have a little video that explains. I don't know how to videos. I did earlier when I first came out with the deck, but I did a video about a year ago just talking about that particular way of learning tarot.
And that brings me to my next card that I pulled, which was the Tower. Is that Shiva?
Yeah. It is Shiva, yes. So, you know, Shiva is the god of destruction, and the Tower is a card of destruction, but it's also a card of enlightenment, because, you know, you have to let something crash down and really fall away, the old paradigm, in order to rebuild. And so I also have a figure on the back of ravens. You see these ravens flying out of the tower. So there's a feeling of release. So, you know, something has been really holding you in. Maybe that wasn't good for you. And then this moment happens with the lightning striking, and there's the Shiva, and then there's release. You leave this old paradigm, the thing that wasn't working. And so the little blocks at the bottom are suggest building blocks for the future, so you can recreate something else. Right. And I have a very stormy sky with rain, you know, which
the rain
sometimes
in the background.
a storm is very threatening, but the day after or the week after, you know, there's new life.
Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that they're storm ravens.
Yeah, we have a lot of ravens in New Mexico, in Santa Fe. And so they were sort of a totem for me for many years.
Yeah, I have a very strong connection with ravens myself. Most places I've lived other than Hawaii, I've always had crows and ravens around me. And loved ones would tell me stories about thinking about me, and something would be like a raven cawing at them. Or like a raven would start cawing at them and they knew they had to call me. And I was like, I was just thinking about you. It happened all the time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I had an experience when I lived in Zuni. I would go for a walk every day, and there was a raven's nest in these rocks where we lived. And the ravens would come out and they would circle above me and they would caw, and I felt like they were greeting me. And actually, not so long ago, maybe about a month ago, I was sitting outside and there was a raven in the tree, and it was they have so many sounds. I think they have 26 different sounds, and it was making this sound. And so I said, hello, hello. And then it went, oh, it wasn't mimicking me exactly, but it was very different from its other sound. And I felt like it was communicating with me. So I love that. That's almost one of my favorite things, is when there's the synchronicity that happens with nature. And, you know, it's in my deck. Yeah, I do have that kind of thing. Like synchronicity was a big guide for me in creating this deck. You know, those little magical moments where you sort of step out of ordinary time into a different realm.
Well, I love the fact that you didn't do the deck in order. You pulled a card to find out which card you should be painting, which that's amazing. Yeah, and then your life kind of echoed the card, right?
Like everybody that creates a deck should do that. Why not? I mean, that's where the energy is, you know, in like to just go 1 to 10 is sort of boring, you know, but to pull a card and to be like really, and then to put your senses out, like how's this happening in my life? Or that's the power and the magic of tarot. And so why not use it to help you in creating
exactly
the deck?
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And speaking of the Hierophant, the Dalai Lama, right?
Yeah, so this is another story. So I pulled the Hierophant, and I heard that the Hierophant is the least favorite card in the whole deck. You know, some survey, who knows who did it. When it was the Pope, I thought, oh, you know, and I didn't really relate to the Pope in any way. Now we have a nicer Pope, but I think when we painted this, I remember who that Pope was. But I thought, well, who is the Hierophant? And at that time, the Dalai Lama was touring around United States, giving lectures at college graduations. And he was in the news and he was popping up a lot. I thought, oh, he's a perfect Hierophant because he's a spiritual authority, but he's so positive. And I also really like the idea of him being a teacher, but then also having the teacher's teacher, which is the Buddha, sitting behind him. So you have this sort of double thing there. And I love that card. I think it's, you know,
it's one of my favorite Hierophants of all time, I got to tell you. It really is.
Oh, good. And we're in a Hierophant year this year. I think 2021 adds up to 5, so it's a Hierophant.
Right. So, and we just had 5-5, right?
Pardon?
And we recently went through 5-5.
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 555. Yeah, 5th of May 2021, which adds up to 5. Yeah.
And it was someone's birthday too, wasn't it? I can't remember who it was though. But that, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's see. We're about halfway through. I just want to talk about just a couple more cards, and then maybe we can shuffle and each pull one card for people who want a reading, maybe.
Great.
So,
the star.
Nut.
Yes, so that's Nut. She's the Egyptian sky goddess, and she has a lot of stars. There's the painting behind me, and actually there's another painting. Sorry, this is mirror image there.
Oh yeah, I see.
It's a big painting. But anyway, she is bringing rain to the Nile, and so when the star Sirius is in the sky, that's the beginning of the rainy season, and there's a great celebration because the Nile floods, and it floods the plains next to it and brings fertility to the soil, and that's the beginning of the growing season. So I thought that was just a really good, you know, the star is about hope and wishes and forward looking and just a new beginning. And I thought
new life is the best expression of hope, right?
Yeah. And then that little temple at the bottom, that's Isis's temple in Philae, which is on the Aswan Dam in the Nile where they meet. And Nut is actually Isis's mother. So I included that as well.
I love these little details.
Yeah. There's quite a lot of Isis energy in the deck. She's my high priestess. She's in the 3 of Pentacles. That's her temple on the back of the card. I'll tell you a little story of how I came to paint the deck. I was an artist painting for galleries, and I wondered what my next series of paintings would be. And I did a shamanic journey. And in the journey, I went to this temple upper world, and there was this throne, and on the throne was a tarot card. And I picked up the card and looked at it, and it was the high priestess. And I wasn't really super involved in tarot. I was learning tarot. I mean, actually, tarot goes back to my childhood because my mother used to have readings and she had a Marseille deck. But I hadn't sort of immersed myself into it. But anyway, in this journey, I sat on the throne and I looked at the card, and then suddenly I felt this big presence around me, which I felt was Isis. And she said to me, paint it. So I thought, okay. I came back and I literally started making these paintings, which I thought would be an exhibition. And I actually thought I would do maybe a performance art piece, you know, pulling a deck and acting it out. But I had never published any decks before, so I wasn't in that whole world. And I didn't feel like I had enough knowledge really. But as I started to paint the cards, I joined the Santa Fe meetup group, and Carrie Paris at the time was the teacher there. And she's a wonderful teacher. And she sort of took me under her wing and she said, Lisa, you have to make a deck out of this. And so I felt like Isis had been sort of the guide that had pushed me to making the card, making the deck, making the tarot. And she's in the deck quite a few times.
Well, that's kind of fitting because the next card I had pulled was the Ten of Wands, which is leaving from one world to another, right? Your feet in both worlds.
Yes, exactly. So this comes from a medieval engraving called the Spiritual Traveler. You might have seen that image before. I remember as a child, I had a record, Donovan, and you opened it up, it was one of those double records, and in the center was this black and white image of the Spiritual Traveler, and I loved that image. I would just stare at it for hours. So I like the idea of sort of on the one side you have the spiritual traveler overburdened with all these sort of different wands on his back that represent different religions and beliefs. You can see.
Oh yeah, I can see that each one has a different head, right?
And
then there's
and that world is sort of that sun is sort of fried that world. It's sort of burnt out. And but then he moves through the rainbow, and he has that last, which is just a little branch with leaves on it. And there above him is that new moon again, and he's reaching towards the stars. So it's like, even though it's a bit like my other 10, the 10 of Swords, where there's a little bit of hope. You know, instead of just being overburdened, you're overburdened, but you're moving ahead towards something new, reaching towards something, a new beginning.
Right. Reaching towards the stars. Yeah, that's one of my favorite cards, actually. Because like you, I've always been obsessed with that original medieval image. And I see it pop up occasionally. And it just seemed appropriate for this card.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think I only have just a couple left here. So the Four of Swords. I love this because it's like meditation, but you also, like, you don't see the figure, you see the energy of the figure, and that, like, how it's going up and through, or down and through, right?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I just thought about creating a strong aura around you that would protect you from these different swords that are kind of poking at you. You know, I think Rider Smith Waite has that figure lying, sort of reclining in a church, resting. This is some of learning to calm your mind and really to how to protect yourself from you know, whatever pokes at you, any mental problems or words, things coming from other people. It's very calm center with the energy flowing, and then a strong aura around you to protect you.
So I don't know if you know this about the Rider-Waite image. It's based on a practice that knights used to do in the Middle Ages, where if they went to war and they survived their first night back, because, you know, making a tomb is very extensive and it's expensive. Only knights had tombs. When they got back from war, the first night they would sleep in their tomb as a reminder that they almost would have had to stay in that tomb, but luckily they survived and they can get up and leave the next morning. So that's where that image of the Four of Swords comes from.
Oh, wow.
For the Rider-Waite Smith. So
yeah.
So this is very similar.
Yeah, it is similar, but I often wondered, you know, if that figure in fact was dead. So I'm happy to hear that they weren't dead. You know, it's because it's a little ambivalent. Like, are they actually dead? Is that the rest, or is it just that they're sleeping? So that's a great story.
Thank you. Okay. Five of Pentacles. And then when we're done with this, let's do a few readings for anybody in the chat who wants one. So start writing, because StreamYard is a little delayed in the chat. So if you want a reading, let us know. Okay, back to the Five of Pentacles, Santa Maria.
Yeah, so this is another, I mean, there's a story behind every card, right? But
Of course.
when I pulled the Pentacles, I was driving to my studio and just thinking about what I would use, and I drove past the Santuario de Guadalupe, which is one of the oldest churches in the United States. It was from when New Mexico was Mexico.
Right.
And there's a beautiful sculpture of Guadalupe outside. It's not quite that big. I exaggerated a little bit. And then there are these day laborers that come and stand, all kinds of weather. They stand outside waiting to be employed. And I think they choose that spot because they may be down and out, or a little desperate financially, but they choose that spot because they feel like this mother will help them be employed. So, and the Pentacles are actually there are 5 Pentacles on her mantle. So somebody said to me one time, why did you do 6 men? And I was like, oh, damn, I should have done 5, but I didn't. So but the Pentacles are on her mantle, and it's just this, I feel like the 5 of Pentacles, you often see those the beggars or cripple outside a church. Right. So it has a little bit of a similar feeling, although these men are much more virile and, they're workers. And right. Yeah, but there's a little bit of that same feeling, like they stand out there when it's freezing cold, when it's incredibly hot, and they're waiting for employment, and they may be migrant laborers, could be from Mexico, so there's a little bit of that tension of desperation, but then also hope.
I know this actually really well because I grew up in California, and that we had the same thing. There were certain areas, especially the hardware stores, where the laborers would just gather and just wait to be hired for the day. And so this really touched home for me because, I grew up in California where we saw this all the time. So it made perfect sense to me, right?
And you can see that orange color of the adobe.
Yeah, that adobe color. That was one of the things I loved about New Mexico, was that, it was a long time ago that I was there, but we did, after my grandfather died, my grandmother used to do these Christmas vacations. She's like, I'd rather spend the money on you than you guys wait for me to die. So she used to take us on Christmas vacations, and one year, was it my mom? I think my mom picked Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so we went and had an amazing, magical Christmas there. Yeah, we got to do a sleigh ride. It was amazing. Place around. It really is. I need to go back again. I haven't been in a long time. But I found myself in another magical place.
Yes, you did.
So, Ishi is asking for a general. Okay. So the way I've been doing it with the people that are coming on my channel is we each just draw one card, and those 2 cards together are what the reading is.
Okay.
Just shuffling to get those cards back in deck. Why are you whipping me with your tail, little miss? Sorry, cat's here. I'm laughing because the card I pulled was the one we were just talking about. You heard me shuffling, so. And I cut the deck.
The Three of
Three of
Cups.
Cups. Okay.
Yes.
So a general reading. Five of Pentacles, Three of Cups. The thing that's really kind of popping into my brain is don't be so focused on like having a good time that you forget to be mindful of how much you're spending while having a good time. And then on the flip side of that is it doesn't matter if you have or not, as long as you have your loved ones, right, to talk it through and just be with. So
yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and to break the tension, if you're having financial or physical issues, get together with some friends and tell some stories about it, and just spend some time in enjoyment and let your troubles go.
I love that. That's just so funny. Okay, that was for Ishi. And does anyone else like a reading? Otherwise, we could do a reading for the collective. I guess one question I have for you is, which of the cards was the hardest for you to actually create?
I don't see the question. What is it?
No, it's a question that I have for you is what card was the hardest one for you to create? Like which one was the one that didn't flow as easy as the others?
Maybe Judgment was a difficult card for me to create. I actually, let me see if I can, I don't know if I can find it, but it might be difficult. But anyway, in my Judgment card, I have...
Here, I got it.
Okay, it's in Siena, in Italy, northern Italy. I was on a tarot tour, and we went to this beautiful cathedral, and the tarot imagery is all throughout the cathedrals in northern Italy. It was the same artisans that made the first decks, the Visconti Sposa deck, that also created the artwork in these cathedrals. And so we went into this cathedral, and there were these amazing mosaics on the floor. And one of them had, you can see, it's I think the Sybil of Cumae, maybe, and you can see there's the three figures looking up, and that's actually in some of the Judgment cards. And so I wanted to use that image, but I wasn't quite sure how to make the whole idea of the Judgment card work. That's actually Kerry Paris. I talked about her before. I was on the tour with her, and she did this thing. I think I forget the exact name she called it, but it was a sacred gaze, where you would just look at something and you would be very, very receptive, and it would come to you. I also have in that card, you see a child on the Wheel of Fortune in that beam of light. So that child is sort of representing the very innocent belief. And then there's the man praying to the archangels above him. And there's Kerry having the sort of sacred gaze. So those three things represent different ways of how we approach the divine, and how we think the divine responds to us. And I mean, it was quite a complicated thought for me. I put it in the card. I'm not sure it really works as a Judgment card. I mean, I say it's what you believe you receive. It's quite a little bit of a different take from, people talk about Judgment card being an awakening, like you awaken to something new. And I guess that is what you're seeing in the card, but it was never very clear to me. For some reason, that creating that card, even when I look at it today, it's not super clear for me. But it's in my deck, so it's, you know, maybe Judgment, maybe it is that mysterious realm before you get to the World card. It's that sort of moment of transition or something. So maybe it's okay that it's not all clear and everything is.
Well, and people will read what they need to read too. So
yes, yeah.
Thank you for that. That actually helps me with the card, because I also was like, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, interesting. And then I could see that, you know, this was the typical Judgment image here. Yeah. But I didn't realize, for some reason, I thought that was, I wasn't sure what that was in the light. So thank you for telling me it's a child.
Yeah, so in these cathedrals, they have these little openings in the ceiling, and they let light come into the astrological calendars, and they sometimes have a timeline, and little beams of light come in and point at different things. I love that. I wanted to include that in the sort of, I mean, those
another request for a general. Hi, Jackie. I didn't see you pop in. She's one of my moderators.
Oh, good. At least the last thing.
Oh, that's pretty. I got the Wheel of Fortune, Angel and Mermaid.
I got the Three of Pentacles, which I was talking about before.
Yeah, you are.
My cards, and there she is. She wanted to make an appearance.
She's like, you're talking about me. I got to show up. So, Jack, you got Wheel of Fortune and Three of Pentacles. So this is telling me that by working with others, by helping to create something with others, your fortune will change, right? And, you know, part of the wheel is making me think of the roundness of the pentacle as well. So there's a cycle ending or beginning for you. Well, all endings are beginnings in disguise, right? So yes. I see this as being like you're starting a new phase of life where you're going to be working with others to create, right? I just see this creation of something. I'm not sure what it is, but
yeah,
I love the imagery here.
Yeah, so in that image, it's like, you know, whatever point you are at in your life, there's always there's an opportunity to grow, to keep expanding. So the mermaid's diving down into sort of the watery emotional depths, and there's heart connecting the mermaid to the angel, and then the angel comes up out of the waters. So there's this, you know, we might feel like we're plunging to difficult times, but that will in fact help us spiral upwards. And in the center, you have the sunflower, which is kind of a mandala made with the petals, and that's just an image of a wheel in a way, but a natural wheel.
Right.
And then the Three of Pentacles, you see Isis is sort of the spiritual guide or the inspiration, and then actually my hand painting a pentacle, and then the moon. But what this really represents is a combination of inspiration, the natural forces, and your own skill set, and using those in combination to create something. And so the cards together would be that if you use your own skill set, but also rely on outside forces to guide you, you will keep moving through your wheel towards a higher resolve.
I love that. Very, very beautiful. Oh, we have a specific question now. Thank you, Jackie. I hope that was helpful. We have Patrice, she wants to know, what do I need to keep in mind while I prepare to travel for the first time since the pandemic? Oof, that's a good question for all of us, really, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and Jackie says, thank you. I've been offered to take a training course at work for a higher level teaching assistant. Do it, Jackie. Those cards are telling you to do it. Okay, let me think. Patrice, what do you need to know? What do you need to keep in mind? Prepare for travel.
So I pulled the Page of Wands.
And I got the 9 of Cups.
Oh. Well, that's kind of a joyful travels, right?
Right? Both of those are very joyful. What is the page doing there?
So that page has a wand, and he's creating these magic mushrooms in the cloud. And so different type of mushroom cloud, right? So I think of the Page of Wands as being the sort of spiritual enthusiast, very open-minded, into exploring different energy, alternate realities, paired with the 9 of Cups, which we talked about before, being the wish card. I think go travels with an open mind and wonder, and make some intent of what you want to get out of this travel. And I think it's telling you to be lighthearted. I mean, yes, follow guidelines to be safe, but maybe let go of the fear and go into your travels with an open mind and open heart.
Well, I love how in the Page of Wands we get like the clouds that you would see out of the airplane window, right? And then you have the angels surrounding this woman. So I'm thinking that you don't have to worry too much. Just keep in mind, you have your angels around you at all times. So you are protected. And that page is telling you just have fun with it, right? Don't get so caught up in the worry that you're not enjoying yourself. So, and Patrice says, ooh, the angels also sort of create a magical cloud in the 9 of Cups. It's true. So I'm telling you, relax. It's okay. Especially if you've been vaccinated, you have less to worry about. Just keep your mask on when you're traveling in high density places, and just remember your angels are around you, protecting you. So. Nancy says, oh, Jonathan, now this deck is on my wish list. Glad to be of service. Okay. We are almost on the hour, so shall we do one last reading for the collective? We draw one and just what the collective needs to know for the coming week.
I just dropped a card. I always go for those cards. So I'm
going jumpers. Always riffle shuffles. Just that's how I clear energy, is with riffle shuffling. Okay, I also had a jumper. And I got the Knight of Pentacles. I love this image.
I have the 5 of Cups.
Okay. Well, that combo is telling me that, we might have some upsetting moments this coming week, but we just need to be steady, not make any moves until we know it's the right move. Don't forget, you still got those 2 cups, even though you might spill a couple. It's this energy that we need to embrace while going through that energy, is what I'm seeing. So you might have a little bit of heartbreak this coming week just because, I don't know, things are not flowing the way they should right now. Plus, with the new moon being in, what is it, Pluto? So it's like this new moon is one of the tower moments, basically, that destruction. So we're going to be dealing with that for this coming week. Stuff that we think of as set up and permanent is going to be proven not to be. And we just have to remember to embody this energy of just waiting for the right moment and taking that moment when it presents itself. Look at that field of flowers.
Yeah.
We have all that we need to deal with the heartbreak.
So yeah, I just add to that it's important to recognize and to honor the difficult times that we've had. We all have. But they're actually behind us. And we're moving towards the bridge up ahead that will lead us to that. But you know, we can really be kind to ourselves for what we've lost, for the struggles that we've gone through. And then looking towards the Knight of Pentacles, that knight is on a quest for growth, for physical virility, and yes, he's seated, but all around him there are these beautiful sunflowers blooming, each one with a pentacle in it. So there is, if we grieve properly for what we've lost, we will move on, and there will be the potential for this growth.
Yeah, new harvest.
Yes.
I love that. Well, that's a perfect way to end. Thank you so much, Lisa. I want to thank everybody in chat. Thank you so much. Everyone's talking about how much they want the deck now. Oh, I love this. And Patrice says, yes, thank you. Just what I need. Perfect. So I love that.
Thank you.
So yeah, next week, I don't have it with me, but next week I have another Lisa Santine, who is the creator of the Destiny deck, who is currently having a new Kickstarter going for her Lucine deck, which comes in 2 versions, Midnight and Twilight. So we're going to talk about that next week. So please come join us again for the other Lisa. It's my month of Lisas, apparently. And thank you, Lisa, for joining us today and for creating such an amazing, beautiful, magical deck. So
thank you. Thank you.
And if you just wait one moment, and I'll say goodbye to everyone else. Aloha, ahui ho, and until next time. Bye.